This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh, look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream, the stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful, cold, gray Sunday morning. But hopefully it'll brighten up a bit later on. Brrr. It is chilly in the proverbial willy today. But hopefully wherever you are warm and comfy and maybe have some cocoa. Cocoa. This is the time of year where peppermint cocoa is available more readily than usual. Peppermint cocoa. I should have some after this. Anyway, who's all joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning? Let's take a look here. Noah Sentio, good morning. Blakester, good morning. Advocatus Diaboli, good morning. Mike R, good morning. Vader35, good morning. Old Guy Gamer, good morning. Shadowclaw, good morning. Fostonia, good morning. Who else is here? Jam, good morning. Brittany Holland, good morning. A2P, good morning. Resolute Germ, good morning. Twisted Skipster, good morning. Who else is here? Zan Wild, good morning. Tall Person, good morning. No Name, good morning. And Mr. E, good morning. And if I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, good morning. And hopefully if I see you later on, I will say good morning if you pop up into chat. I really wasn't expecting to find something like this. It's just one of those things that comes across in a term search, and I think to myself, what a bizarre world. And at first I thought this was some kind of, on the fringe. I didn't know. I saw the title and I was like, what? And I was like, okay. But then I saw the thumbnail. And then I saw who's giving the presentation. So for those of you listening at home, let me lay it out for you. We have a panel discussion from the North American Cartographic Information Society. And not to sound condescending to anybody, but for those of you that don't know, cartography is the science of creating maps. Longitude, latitude, the globe, that kind of thing. And beyond that, this panel discussion is hosted by a member of the U.S. Department of State. And the title of this panel discussion is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion 2. Cartographic Boogaloo? No, Queer Cartography. And I have visited the subject of queering or queer theory in areas of the world you might not otherwise imagine, if you could imagine such a lens would be applied, specifically in mental health. I've looked at a couple of interviews in the past involving Dr. Chris Hoff, where he would talk to other counselors / psychologists / professionals in the mental health field about their process of queering their work. And the question that was always there, what exactly does that mean? What does it mean to queer something as abstract as mental health or family counseling or whatever? I can't recall that a clear answer was ever provided. But I'm most particularly curious to find out, queer cartography, is that like a metaphor or what? I don't know. So this is going to be an educational endeavor for me, perhaps as well for you. A couple more hellos here before I get going. Ercole Di Stefano, good morning. Captain Frost, good morning. Johnny Hellcat, good morning. The Luke Skywalker 2, good morning. Spittlebuggies, good morning. Shiro Amada, good morning. Arc 210, good morning. And did I miss anybody else in the meantime? I hope not. If I did, I apologize. But so this sucker runs about 40 minutes. Well, I should say 37 minutes. I was rounding up a little bit. I think we should be able to get through the whole thing in the hour and a half real time that I usually go through. And yeah, it's a mystery box. The title, the circumstances, the host, and the organization putting it on all grabbed my attention. So let's find out what it means to engage in queer cartography. But before then, at the top of the chat box, if you take a moment to take a look at the GoFundMe's there for our friends James Colley, Maddie, Grisella, and Angry Illinoisian. Each of them and their families, in one way or another, have experienced a recent tragedy or hardship. And if you would take a look at those when you have the opportunity, I'd appreciate it. If you can donate, please do so. If you can't, that's fine. But if you can share those out on social media, that would be very much appreciated. All right. All that being said, as preamble, let's get into this. Yeah.
Okay, welcome to the panel portion of our queer cartography session. We're going to be joined by two more additional panelists, Amber Boss and Lily Outman.
Oh, just as a note, I haven't edited anything out of this, so if they do some housekeeping, upcoming events, or land acknowledgement kind of things at the beginning, I might skip over those. But yeah, I'm coming into this completely blank.
So I'm not going to introduce the Jacks again. You heard their bios, but I will introduce Amber and Lily, if that's okay. So Dr. Amber Boss is a map therapist and research strategist.
Map therapist. Okay.
Through her consultancy, Map Boss Co., or Map Boss Company. Amber helps community engaged scholars integrate trauma-informed practices throughout their research and teaching. She lives with her partners in Alaskan Malamute in Provo, Utah, where she serves as a local organizer supporting LGBTQ plus folks who have recently...
Wait. Trauma-informed... Sorry, I gotta listen to that. That went by too quick.
Her consultancy, Map Boss Co., or Map Boss Company. Amber helps community engaged scholars integrate trauma-informed practices trauma-informed practices throughout their research and teaching. She lives with her partners in Alaskan Malamute in Provo, Utah, where she serves as a local organizer supporting LGBTQ plus folks who have recently left the Mormon Church.
That was an interesting side eye by our speaker on that one. Who recently left the Mormon Church. Side eye. Okay. All right. Trauma-informed map therapy consulting. Okay.
Lily Outman is a second-year master's student at Penn State, primarily studying mobile thematic map design and data journalism.
Mobile thematic map design and data journalism. Mobile thematic map design. So when I think of like a thematic map, I think of like at the beginning of a fantasy novel, you'll usually have like a map of the, enchanted land that you're about to hear stories about or whatever. Thematic. Okay.
They are also interested in queer, trans, and feminist applications of cartography in academic and industry settings.
They are. Okay.
Lily enjoys tracking the lesbian bars they've been to on a map they made, including a they bar right here in Pittsburgh called Harold's Haunt.
A they bar? Okay, I am being inundated with terms and concepts that I'm just... Obviously, my straight white male heteronormativity has barred me from learning of these things.
Is that where you went yesterday? Sorry. Okay, so my vision for this panel is that I'm going to ask a kickoff question, and ideally, I have to do a little work other than that. If there's an awkward silence, I will fill it with another question.
Well, you don't want the awkward silence, so you actually, indicate who will be responding to it. Anyway, I'm wondering, who is the State Department? Is she the State Department employee? Is she the moderator? Okay.
I'm going to save the last 10 minutes for you guys to ask questions about either presentations or anything that we talk about here today.
Okay.
So the first, we're trying to get the closed captioning set up.
Okay. Well, while they do that, and well, Anyway, thank you, Johnny Hellcat. Due to father issues, I can't correctly draw the prime meridian. I wonder if she has a spot open. Okay, there's some inside joke there or something. And here's how bad my mind is. When you say prime meridian, I know that means one thing, but then my mind goes to prime Merlinian from the ridiculous Nicolas Cage movie, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, from many, many years ago now. Somehow that has been ingrained in my brain to the point where you say prime meridian and I think of a Nicolas Cage movie. I have no excuses. I cannot absolve myself of that sin. I apologize. Oops.
Is it working? Yes. It's working. Okay.
It's working. Yay!
So the first question, the kickoff question, is for each panelist. Feel free to pass around the mic. And it's, how do you define queer cartography? And maybe we've heard some of that already, but broad question. I'm sure it's not an easy answer. So let's start with Amber.
Why isn't it an easy answer? Why is it a broad question? It should have a simple definition. If it doesn't have a simple definition, then okay, all right. How does each person define this thing?
Wow. Yeah. Thank you, folks. My answer to this question, so I guess maybe I'd like to contextualize it with why I feel like I deserve space and place in this conversation.
All right. Explain to us why you are deserving of space in this conversation, even though it's more like an interview at this point.
I live in Provo, Utah, which has the highest concentration of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as Mormons.
Yeah.
And there is a very interesting set of circumstances taking place in the queer community there.
I'll take your word for it.
It's actually part of the reason I became more visibly queer upon moving there. I don't think most people understood I had any type of queer identity. It wasn't something that was a part of my professionalization.
Why would it be? And you elected to move to Provo, Utah. Okay.
And that's what's prompted me to kind of go and explore issues of trauma within our work. I'll be talking about trauma-informed mapping at 4 o'clock today. And
trauma-informed, that's another panel? Oh, there's more of this? Okay, trauma-informed mapping. I'll have to keep my eyes open for that one.
So I see queer cartography as suicide prevention.
Okay, well, if I had decided to monetize this stream, then I think that simple word would have shot it down. But anyway, all right, so the cat is out of the proverbial bag. Queer cartography is suicide prevention. How?
There are a number of folks within the Mormon community and the kind of intricacies of what it means to be visibly queer. And for context, Brigham Young University in 2020 removed language from their code of conduct that's penalized students for engaging in same-sex relationships. But
you mean a religious college has religious strictures that don't align with other people's lifestyles? I'm shocked.
Then they continued to penalize folks for still being in same-sex relationships. They just removed it from their documentation. And so that means there's a lot of, visibility is a very political topic, especially now. And so I'm coming to this from a question of who gets the right to be visible, who gets the right to be mapped.
Okay, again, is the entire concept just a metaphor for something? Because this is being put on by a National Association of Cartographers, like people who actually engage in creating maps. Like, the thing you use to tell which direction you're going and what, physical features on the landscape are here, there, and otherwise. And so what does it mean?
And the modes through which that creates pathways to give folks an opportunity to see themselves and understand themselves differently. There are a lot of folks who did come out as queer throughout the pandemic. Maybe we're familiar with this kind of this wave of folks who were able to feel freer in their identities. And so
if you say so, I don't know.
But with that, understanding that queer data gives that visibility in a particular way. It also asks us to, again, consider questions around what we're doing with our maps that engage with queer data.
Okay. So are we talking more like census information? Like, let's say population demographics based on, and I'm, for the sake of brevity, even though LGBTQ plus, et cetera, doesn't just refer to sexual orientation, just for simplicity's sake, I'll just say orientation. Are we talking about accumulating demographic data on orientations in particular locations? Is that what we're looking at? Is that what it is? If that's what that means, why not just say that? And if it's not what it means, then I'm still lost.
I think one of the projects that I'm kind of working towards is maturing our capacities of understanding what our map portfolios should look like.
What?
And that not all of our data should be shared. I know we've been talking about this for a while, but kind of increasing the nuance and discernment that we're bringing to those conversations. So
not all of the data should be okay, why? What's an example of data that should not be shared when you're purportedly working towards? Are we actually making? Okay, are we actually making maps, like an actual map of a location, of geography, of a place, or whatever else? Is that what we're actually doing? You know, elevations and declinations, latitude, longitude, the whole 9 yards, physical features of the landscape. Are we actually talking about the creation of maps, or are we talking about, I don't know.
Queer cartography as suicide prevention.
What that you didn't explain anything about what it is, what you're doing, and how that prevents suicide. I don't. Okay, well that was round one. We got 2 more apparently.
Well, first, I just want to say, thank you to Lou for hosting this, and to Lou and Travis for organizing these DEI panels. I really enjoyed the accessibility one, and I'm really excited to be here for this one as well. I think that maybe the way I approach queer cartography relates a little bit to kind of thinking about how there are kind of a few broad labels for people's various queer identities, but everyone's individual experience within that is very different. And so throughout my life, trying to figure out what labels exactly fit for me has been a challenge. And I think now I have reached more of a place of just vibes, and also
I am not innocent of using the word as a pause point when I'm expressing myself, but I do not consider myself much of a machine gun with it. What is queer cartography? It should take no more than perhaps 2 sentences. If you're discussing a concept, sure, I can see something longer than a few words. All right, it's not a definite item. Right? What is a bottle cap? Well, it's the thing that goes on top of a bottle. All right, just come on. What is it?
Accepting that things may change as life continues. So I find it to be this very individualized thing that for simplicity, we maybe do reduce down to labels sometimes, but everything is individualized. And I think that queer mapping is going to be a very similar thing. It's different for every person. It's individualized, and we might put them in these broad categories.
If it's different for every person, then it has no definition. Then you're talking nonsense. if I can apply the label of queer cartography to anything I feel it applies to, then it doesn't. Okay.
But like each person's going to get something different from it.
From what?
And I am often thinking about like, especially people in like more industry settings and how they might be able to, in their everyday job, whatever that might be.
No, not whatever that might. No. Industry jobs of what? Where is this applicable in an industry? Okay, it might be applicable in more than one industry, but name one in particular. Where, like, am I going to be using queer cartography in data entry? Am I going to be using queer cartography in sewage line working? Okay, I'm already getting frustrated by this. Just thank you, Irving Spider-Man, for the donation. Appreciate it. And good morning to you as well. Anybody else I missed with some good mornings before I keep going here? Bishop, good morning. Anybody else? Is everybody in? Oh, Plague Trucker, good morning. And Ostsan, good morning. If I missed anyone else, I apologize, but okay. Like.
Have spaces for queer cartography and
what is it?
You know, just yeah, like I think that there's really great academic conversations. Like I'm a grad student, I get to have all those conversations, and
could you have one with us where you describe what it is you're talking about?
Obviously, like anyone can engage in these kind of like theoretical conversations, but I think that it's like really interesting to make sure that everyone gets a chance for queer cartography. I think that
what
also
is it?
Like I really want to emphasize like the chance for joy within queer cartography. I think that obviously like maps showing like where there's spaces that may be scary to go to are like really important, and acknowledging like the really harmful, especially like anti-trans laws are.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm trying here. I'm really trying here. Okay. So queer cartography is I have a map of an area, and I have on this map marked out by whatever criteria that I'm using areas that are scary. Let's just call it safe areas and unsafe areas. Areas that I, for whatever reason, believe to be safe and or unsafe for people under the umbrella of LGBTQ, etc. All right. So, all right, I'm doing my best here. Let's say, before I get to that, I have a thought. Before I get to that, maybe that'll come up. Come on, StreamYard, you can do it. Thank you, A2P, for the how's it going, Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wow.
Thank you, A2P. That was a drunken uncle, Dogcat Fox. Appreciate it. Hope you're having a good Sunday. Okay, so is it going to be like the Green Book, right? Like the Green Book was effectively a black person's guide to how to move through the United States back in the old days to understand, what laws are in place in certain areas of the country, and if you are traveling through them, what you have to be mindful of as a black person under Jim Crow and segregation and all that other garbage. So something like that. So I do a survey of, and this is just me just spitballing here. So I do a survey of how many confirmed attacks on LGBTQ people have occurred, like assaults that were confirmed as being influenced by the person's orientation in a particular area. And so I just put little, pins on a map as to where these things take place. And so I could make an informed piece of advice for someone that this area of town seems particularly dangerous for people like you. You may want to avoid it. Right? Maybe is that what this is? And if that's what this is, why not just say that? It's just okay, what's with all this roundabout, esoteric, abstract, like? Just, if that's what you mean, then that's what it is. If that's what it's defined as, why are you saying it's different for every person? Or am I just being far too literal with it?
Are really important, but I want to acknowledge joy within mapping, and I also want queer cartography to be in conversation with other critical cartography. One thing that has fascinated me for like the past few years has been kind of like body mapping and like cuerpo territorio maps. And I am very interested in like what trans body mapping might be. And especially like to do that in like a repeated setting and like have people like map changes and feelings about their body, I think would be really interesting. But also
wait. Map changes in how they feel about their body. Okay, is cartography a metaphor now? Just just in general? Is okay. All right. I'm trying, guys. I really am.
So, like, acknowledging the individualized aspect of that. And I think that's another thing too, is like there can be maps for like broad public consumption. Like I do study news cartography mainly, which is a very broad audience.
News cartography. Like what? Okay. What is news cartography? Like, do you map out where news happens or something?
But I think that I want to also have space for maps that may only be for like you and a few friends too.
What?
So I'll leave it there for now, but I'm excited to hear what everyone else has to say too and talk more.
I can't say this isn't interesting because it's at least interesting, but of course interesting is a very diplomatic word. It's also fascinating and awe-inspiring and a whole bunch of other things that... Okay, well, that was round 2. What does round 3 give us?
Wow, that was awesome.
Was it, though? Was it like awesome?
I didn't say my definition, but I'll be succinct because I feel like I just got to say a lot.
I didn't get to say my definition. I'm assuming that there was a panel prior to this or something, but you'll be succinct. Well, please be succinct, because your fellow panelists don't know the meaning of the word.
Which is that I think queer mapping is the responsibility for everyone who is left off the map or who needs to be left off the map.
What? Okay. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
No. What?
And I love your definitions.
What? What? No. Let's do that one more time. Let's do that one more time. Let's do that one more time. Just for those of you in the cheap seats. Come on, go.
Say my definition, but I'll be succinct because I feel like I just got to say a lot, which is that I think queer mapping is the responsibility for everyone who is left off the map or who needs to be left off the map. Yeah.
Queer mapping is the responsibility of everyone who belongs on the map or should be left off of the map. Okay.
And I love your definitions.
They didn't give any definitions. That's the problem. Neither one of the previous panelists gave any definitions. In fact, our second panelist said quite clearly that there is no definition because it means something different to everyone. Okay. What does definition mean to our speakers, I wonder? What is the concept of a definition of a term, of a word, of an idea, what does that mean? Or are we just throwing out the entire definition of definition.
Well, I have a 20-minute presentation that I just delivered that I'm happy to deliver again. No.
Apparently, I should have found the first entry in this series because everybody's just... Okay, why have this panel discussion if it's completely duplicative of the one you had before?
I mean, I really see it in terms, as I said in the presentation, of practice.
What?
I think a lot back to my first time at NASIS, and Bill is smiling at me there. Bill will remember this conversation, but we were talking, and I said, I don't think I could really call myself a big C cartographer. I'm
a big C cartographer. Okay. When someone says they're a cartographer, again, unless they are using it in the form of a metaphor, I assume to think that there's someone who makes maps. So what is a little c cartographer?
C cartographer. I might call myself a little C cartographer. What I meant by that is like, I don't make maps. My maps are kind of ugly. I'll be honest. I mean,
then why join this association? What drove you to join a cartographers association?
I can keep working on them, but it doesn't.
It's all a setup for you to win the competition. I'll come with you. I think my maps are ugly.
What?
But design doesn't come naturally to me. Other things in cartography do come naturally to me.
Such as?
And I really feel like over the past couple of years, NASIS has made big strides. I've grown. I've become more confident, whatnot. But not to call out some of my colleagues who are here with me from Kentucky, but on the way up, we were talking about oh, well, I don't know if I'm a cartographer. Is this the right conference for me? And it's like, yes, it is. But to me, that shows how there's still kind of these barriers around practice, around how we're building community, that people are still kind of feeling like they can't, there's a barrier to entry.
Yeah, the barrier to entry is, are you a cartographer? What? Okay. If there's a National Association of Cartographers, and I know I'm not repeating this association exactly its name, it's cartography, but still, yeah, there's a barrier to entry. You have to be in some way, shape, or form associated with the creation of maps to be in a cartographers association. What is going on here? I feel like I brought this up not too long ago in reference to something else. There is a video out there from long ago now that Mr. Medeker put out doing a critique of, I forget exactly what the name of the association was. It was like the National Debate Association or something like that, where these weird ideological tirades had taken over a national debate association that weren't debates. It was just people screaming and huffing and babbling into a microphone about sociological issues and social justice issues, and somehow that made it okay. And it was no longer about debating. It was just about using the format of a debate and turning into something that has nothing to do with the debate. Now we have a cartographers association where actually being a cartographer is not important or necessary. I'm just confused.
That is higher than I think it actually needs to be.
Let me back up. I did cut him off, and I don't want to, as much as possible, I don't want to take out any context.
For me, and it's like, yes, it is, but to me, that shows how there's still kind of these barriers around practice, around how we're building community, that people are still kind of feeling like they can't, there's a barrier to entry. that is higher than I think it actually needs to be. And maybe it's something in how we market ourselves or perceive ourselves. I don't really know, but that is what is kind of driving me for a queering of cartography and what I see it as.
I have absolutely no idea what he's talking about. Absolutely no idea what he is talking about. If you're not in the business in some way, shape, or form of the creation of maps, either as a surveyor or even if you're just like, I run the company that runs the printers that creates maps. Okay. You know, maybe you're not a cartographer yourself, but you have some idea about, you know, the technicalities of it or the creation of them or whatever else. Okay, fine. But if you're not associated in some way, shape, or form with the creation of maps, then why would you be a member of a cartographers association? And what does queering cartography mean? I mean, I gave my best guess, right? You've got effectively the Green Book for LGBTQ+, right? If you're going through this state, know that the laws of this state say X, Y, Z, PDQ, and be informed before you move through this state. And here's a town that has a particularly high percentage of gay bars versus this town that does it. Something like that, right? You have mapped out the circumstances that are applicable to your lifestyle or the way that you live your life, whatever. Okay. Might be useful for some people, not useful for others. Fine. If that is what queer cartography is, that's a very short conversation, and I don't need a whole lot of explanation. But as far as I can tell, save for one sort of hand-wavy mention of such a thing, we've had 4 people now speak on the subject, and none of them have told us what the heck they are talking about.
I just want to respond real fast. Like, am I a cartographer? It's like, am I a lesbian? Am I trans? Right? I think there's something to that about the power of it. Like, and am I enough?
What? No, wait. Are you sexually attracted to women as a woman? Then yes, you may in fact be a lesbian. Have you experienced gender dysphoria and gone through the process of changing your body and chemistry to align with what you think is your gender? Then yes, you'd be tried. Do you make maps? Then yes, you may be a cartographer. It's a very simple thing. There are certain elements of your makeup and actions that qualify you to fall into those categories. It's not a mystery. Finding your place might be a little bit of a journey, but it's not. What?
And the enoughness of what we do.
The enoughness?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, too. About the queering of cartography. It's a practice. It's the same, right? It does the same things, I think.
No. What does that mean? What does queering cartography mean? Okay, either my supposition is right or it's 100% wrong.
I think that's really awesome.
Enough? Are you a cartographer?
Yeah.
What? No, are you a No, it's I hate to tell you this. It is not an ambiguous question. There's no cartography non-binary. Either you are or you are not. Either you create maps or you don't, or you're learning how to do so, or you're not. It's one or the other. It's not a mystery. What?
Do you have another question for us? Yay. You guys have
what?
Nope. I also just wrote down about the power of naming, and I think just another check mark because it is really important.
Yeah.
The power of naming? There's only one powerful name in the universe. It is a killing word. Muad'Dib. That's all you need to know.
So, I mean, I'll just make a quick comment. Like, I came out during the pandemic. Like,
why are you wearing a mask now? You didn't wear a mask the entire time you were giving the introduction. Now you're wearing a mask? Okay.
One of your talks alluded to, and I was living with Bill at the time, and we kept joking, like, I don't really have my gay card yet.
What?
like what does that mean? Or like, how do I earn it? And it was like a lot of deep uncertainty.
What?
But like sort of leaning into where this discussion just left off, like, you know, what then does it like mean to queer or map, or what then does it mean to like practice queer cartography? Like,
yes, please answer the lady's question. Define the term. She's having to say this because nobody on the panel answered her initial question. Define the term.
Like, what are maybe like tangible practices of queering the map or queering cartography in and out of academia? I will, maybe Lily's nodding her head a lot. Maybe we'll start there.
Okay. All right. Well, credit where credit is due, as much as possible here. Our moderator asked a question. We got 4 different answers. None of the answers answered the question. So now she has to restate the question, ask for specific examples, and then put someone on the spot to answer the question. So, mechanically speaking, our moderator has done a good job here, and I appreciate that. So good. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat. I swear, if I hear map fluid once, oh boy, I don't know. I don't know. Let's find out. I'm still waiting to learn something here.
Sure. Well, I guess like I've had a lot of different thoughts about like some possible like practical applications of querying cartography. And like one thing that I have been kind of thinking a lot about, because people really talk about like big data a ton in like cartography and GIS circles, and I am kind of imagining something in like the opposite direction of that. That being said, like I think there's a lot of uses in like larger data sets in terms of like anonymizing like individual people, and I think that's like really important in a lot of situations, obviously, and like literally for safety, because as we saw, those like trans folks making maps of like trans health clinics is like really bad.
Is this a skit? I swear this feels like it's performance art or something. Okay, all right. Okay, what was that about making a map of trans clinics? That's really bad. Why? Like, what if I'm somebody who's looking for such a clinic? Okay, I mean, information can be used for good or evil depending on your intentions. But all right, like what now?
But I'm kind of thinking about how, like, in terms of like telling, I'm going to use the example of like telling stories about trans healthcare maybe to a broader public and trying to get the public to understand something like that. Maybe there's kind of like incomplete data sets about things like that.
Like what? Like what?
And first of all, I guess like at a basic point, I think that it would be good in more instances to use incomplete data sets as long as we begin to acknowledge like instances where there is incomplete data.
What? Ah! What are you talking about?
Because like there are many cases where it is okay to just like not map something.
Like
but I think that also like these standards of like what is good enough data is like very like patriarchal. So I don't always agree with those as long as, again, there is that acknowledgement for.
Could you give us an example of what you're talking about? Even if it's absolute nonsense, I need something to get a foothold here mentally. Come on. Thank you, Faustonia, very much. I just Googled, what is queer cartography? I now realize that was a mistake. I very specifically did no research on the term prior to watching this video. I wanted to take in the fullness of whatever it was from the experts that are presumably participating in it. And I think, I too now think that might have been a mistake.
For issues with like data certainty and things like that. That being said, I am really interested in like narratives and like individual narratives to possibly like tell broader stories about something like trans healthcare rather than like a big map that is like hard to relate to as an individual. And
I know I'm going to try to avoid just turning this entire stream into me going, what, every 3 seconds, but it is difficult. It is difficult. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk, for the happy, smiley, dancy, thankfully putting a bit of a break into this insanity. Dog Cat Fox.
Wow. Wow.
That's a Sinatra Dog Cat Fox. Thank you so much, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Appreciate it. Hope you're having a good Sunday. All right, I'm going to back up slightly on the off chance I am leaving out some kind of context.
To possibly tell broader stories about something like trans healthcare rather than a big map that is hard to relate to as an individual. And the reason I started thinking about this is because I started out in biological anthropology and human evolution.
Okay, well, that's something at least I can understand conceptually. Okay, biological anthropology and human evolution. And that led you to this, how?
And that is a very different area. But when we think about the fossil record for human evolution, there is really a lack of fossils. We just have bits and parts of different individuals. But there are individuals that we get narratives around. And so if I say Australopithecus afarensis, nobody knows what that means. But if
I actually do know what that means. And I have to thank for that my high school anthropology teacher, because I learned things. But anyway, yes, Australopithecus afarensis, yes. Okay. Back up a little bit. Try this again. Yes.
Are individuals that we get narratives around. And so if I say Australopithecus afarensis, nobody knows what that means. But if I say Lucy, people might know who Lucy is. She's kind of this iconic figure, and kind of represents some of this past human evolution. So people really latch on to this one narrative around Lucy.
Yes, a nickname for a fossil might be more recognizable to people than the scientific term. Okay, all right. I'll concede. Possibly so.
But they would just be overwhelmed by just seeing a bunch of rib bones and stuff like that. That's hard to conceptualize the history of human evolution through a bunch of pieces and data that's somewhat incomplete. But when we tie that narrative to one individual and what she might have been doing in her environment, then that is a more compelling story in the sense of science communication and getting the public informed.
So what you mean to say is having disparate pieces of information outside of any particular context don't really tell a story until you combine those pieces together and try to create a narrative. Then it's more understandable. Great. Can you define for me what queering cartography is, please? I'll take a narrative at this point over whatever disparate pieces of puzzles have been thrown on the floor this entire time.
And again, as we've said earlier, not everything about queer mapping is for public consumption.
Okay, what about it is not for public consumption? And if it's not for public consumption, then why is it a part of? What is the point of making a map that no one is ever going to see? Is it a treasure map? Do you mean map in the literal sense or not? What?
But if we're trying to get more people to understand the issues with trans healthcare, and we tie that narrative to one person who maybe drives 20 minutes for their first HRT appointment. Their doctor really sucks, as is often the case. Then they drive 40 minutes for their next appointment. Then maybe they drive 2 hours to get top surgery. Tracing this individual narrative in maybe a slightly mappy way might be a way to approach queer cartography, and embracing the fact that individuals can somewhat represent a broader story and a broader data set, rather than like having these like standards of like what a good data set should be.
Wait. So if I go on Google Maps and I say, here's my starting location and the ending location, my destination is a hospital, and it says approximately how long that trip is going to take by car, by bike, walking, etc. That is a narrative for an individual. That's not just the circumstances of geography and infrastructure. That applies to anybody wanting to make that journey. What? Okay. I still have no idea what we're talking about.
I think that would be an interesting possible avenue for queer cartography, but I'm also curious to hear what everyone else has to say, because there are a lot of avenues for queer cartography.
I suppose there are. Thank you, Alan Thyler, for the super sticker. So the StreamYard unfortunately does not display the super stickers. It just says super sticker. But I can tell you it is a dogcat fox dressed up as a samurai holding a trophy. And he's a very happy, very proud dogcat fox. Oh, dogcat fox!
Wowie, wow.
Thank you, Alan Thyler. That was a P-Dog Night dogcat fox. Something I spotted earlier in here from Bearded Devil. All right. Quote, Queering the Map is a community-generated mapping project that geolocates queer moments, memories, and histories in relation to physical space, unquote. Right. So it's a tour guide. It's, as stated earlier, a green book. Right. Why can't that just be stated? This would be a very short conversation. Like if somebody said, I did research into mapping out all of the gay and or LGBTQ friendly bars in the city, and I created a map of that for, community consumption or personal use or whatever. Okay. If somebody said, I don't even know what the next level of interest on the board. Oh, like I said, okay, so if you did a survey of crime reports and found all the instances you could figure out that were confirmed to be crimes related to LGBTQ identity or hate crimes or whatever, and put pins on the map as to where those occurred, and were able to, from that information, derive a guide or a safety tip of what neighborhoods or what areas or what cities are more or less safe for people to be out in public or display anything that might be considered to be identifying themselves as not straight. Right. Something like that. If that's what you're talking about, okay, I get it. That makes sense. I can see the point A to the point B and onward. Okay. But that's not what's been said. Why isn't it that what's being said? Why are they going all over the place with these abstract ideas and esoteric notions? Like, why is this so difficult?
Who wants to go next? Jack.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on that, because I think what you just described is very much in line with what Jack Giesking was talking about, like social network analysis. Like, is it a map in the sense that we traditionally see it? Is there a north arrow? No. Oh, it's not a map. No, but this idea that we can.
Okay. No, there is a difference. This is a cartographers association. If you're talking about data analytics, I'm sure that does take a part in cartography, certainly, but the end result, again, me just using words as I know them to be defined, the end result is you are creating a map, a piece of paper, an expanse that shows physical features of the landscape that may be denoted with points of interest or on a theme, right? Like I go on Google Maps and I want to filter the map of the city for restaurants. Just show me all the restaurants. I don't care about the police stations. I don't care about the bus stops. I just want to see the points on the map that refer to places where I can go to get food, right? There you go. It's not a new concept. It's been done for a long time. But if it's not dealing with the creation of a map in some way, shape, or form, then it has nothing to do with this. Or does it?
Have different types of visualizations that are geographic in some sort of way, that are telling stories, that are
telling stories.
We don't necessarily see them as they do fall under data visualizations, but we are opening the door up to what is and what can constitute a map. And so
okay, are we talking about creating a map? Are we talking about creating a tour guide? Right? Because like I have visited New Orleans at least twice now. And on each trip, I ended up taking a ghost walk or a haunted New Orleans tour, something like that. Okay. Where the tour guide, and I know I don't mean to be talking down, but just for the sake of explaining. So we start at a location and the guide walks us to a particular location in the city. And then we stop and we're told a story about something that happened at that location in the past. And then we move on to another location and the process is repeated, right? It's a tour guide. It's a tour. It is a historical tour of events and things that took place in this particular area at a particular time or different times. Is that what it is? You want to have a map where you've got little pips on the map and you click on it and you suddenly get a little audio bit of, at this location on this date, a thing happened. Okay, all right. You know what? Cartographers, I could see that. I could see that, sure. In fact, I had an idea a long, long time ago, and I'm not sure anybody's ever done this, and I'm sure they'd probably, get in trouble for it. But I had a long time ago an idea, back when apps and mapping apps were like all the rage and things, and like, geocaching and things like that. I had an idea of what if you created an app where you had programmed into this thing alongside, say, Google Maps or whatever, and you've got it on your smartphone. And so wherever you are, your Google Map sort of geolocates where you are. What if you had an app that had the location of every place a body had been dumped by a serial killer in a particular area? Right? Like the actual longitude, latitude, here's where the body was dumped. And then you put these out onto a map and you programmed into this thing that when you reached that location, granted that it was a safe location to go to because it might be off in the boonies somewhere, a little audio thing would play talking about that victim and the circumstances of their life and the circumstances of their death and the discovery of their body, whole 9 yards. Right? And you could see on a map where this one particular, you could filter it by serial killer for a particular area or jurisdiction. And you could see on this map where all their bodies, all their victims had been discovered. And I would have called this app Dump Site. Now, it would have gotten me in so much trouble with people say you're profiting off of death and disrespect to the families, and there's a certain truth to that. It was a goofy idea at the time, but in my mind, I'm still thinking, gosh, if you could have all of those things on a map, all those points of where they were dropped off or dumped, and you could like put those alongside one serial killer after another, maybe you could find some sort of pattern to their behavior in some way that would be useful for law enforcement or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, so I can see the idea of making a tour guide using a map for a specific category of events or history or experience. Okay, is that what you mean? Because that's not what you guys are saying with any specificity.
I think this is kind of gets to this perpetual question in cartography of like, well, what is and isn't a map? Is this right? Is this wrong? It's
no. What is or isn't a map? It's very simple. If we're talking about cartographers, we're talking about a map of a geographical area. A visual representation of the land features and details of a geographical area. If you're talking about statistical analysis of data points in social media, you can call that a map, but that's not a map. Do you understand?
It's like that to me is a moot point. Because it's always going to change. And I think that what both of you have said is kind of saying, like, sometimes the map as we think about it and are trained to create is not actually what is best.
What?
And, acknowledge that and bring in new practices.
What are you Okay. My for this stream is, what are you talking about? Every third word in my commentary is going to be, what are you talking about?
Thank you. Like, all of this is so fun and smart. And I was thinking about like traveling stories of queer life are really important. There's like Finn Inke in Finding the Movement, which is about the 70s in Detroit, Minneapolis, and Madison, writes about all the archives of lesbian queer life are about like a bar. But then if you talk to people, it's about how they got to the bar and what they did beforehand and where they ate. And then, like, I have 3 generations of people of lesbian queer New York who all ate at the same pizza place but didn't know it, because it's just the shitty Rizzoli pizza number 2. Like, that's how bad the pizza place, because it's cheap pizza and you're drunk and it's 2 a.m. and you don't care where you eat. And they're all eating the same place for like over 30 years. It's still there.
So a coincidence of convenience. And they were the only kinds of people that ate at this place under those same circumstances, because there's something very special about your orientation and where you end up eating at 2 a.m. Maybe there's something to be said about, I don't know, bar community or bar culture, rather than something dealing with as specific as who you personally like to sleep with. But I guess you have to center that aspect of you in some way, shape, or form. Okay.
And I think these traveling stories remind me of Olivia Engel just graduated with her PhD on geographies of abortion and abortion access in the UK.
Okay.
And these traveling stories of where you go and how you get, but also how you get medicine sent to you, like what travels to you.
What? What travels to, I don't know. What did I order on Amazon or through subscriptions? Prescriptions R Us or whatever you get your.
And it gets back to reproductive justice, which filters to everything that we're talking about here.
Reproductive what?
Yeah, kind of picking up. Yes.
Yes to what?
Yes. What? I'm thinking about the ways that these students on Brigham Young University's campus relate to each other.
You are really, really focused on Brigham Young and campus. I forget. Is our speaker a student there or a teacher there or? Okay, you're really, really thinking about Brigham Young University. Okay.
Very much these travel stories that Jack was just talking about. They're oral histories. Not a lot is recorded digitally, and that is a very strategic choice. Faculty members that have information or anything gesturing to allyship on their Instagram profiles have been recently targeted, right? And so there's a very high level of surveillance taking place. And so we're reverting back to these more oral practices of being able to share what safe spaces are. And there's even covert kind of attempts to mark what safe spaces are in real life physical places. I'm not going to.
So, like, I did say the word like. I apologize. In Skyrim, when the Thieves Guild wants to know whether a particular building or residence has stuff worth stealing, they draw a little symbol secretly on the door frame somewhere with using like circles and triangles and X's and things. like that kind of deal. You have to have a secret subculture in highly religious Provo, Utah. Okay, backing up a little bit.
Kind of attempts to mark what safe spaces are in real life physical places. I'm not going to mention what those techniques are, but there are ways that students have developed to kind of create these constellations across space within Provo's kind of physical space. And then also taking the folks who do have the privilege to be visible, they are very much grounded within a very class-based privilege.
What does any of this have to do with the art of map making? What? Is this that secret knowledge that can't be shared publicly because look out, the Mormons are coming for us, that kind of thing?
Folks who are not as likely to be kicked out and experience, unhoused moments, but they have enough support from their families. So of course, intersectionality is always important, but I think there is, I'm seeing this, up close and personal, the ways that these different privileges. So going to Lily's point about.
Okay, I don't mean to repeat myself, and as I catch myself, I will try not to.
About kind of the incomplete data sets, continuing to engage, and again, understanding the gaps and the silences as the areas that we're needing more care, we're needing more support.
Okay, wait, so you have gaps in your understanding, you have holes in your data, but you're going to assume to know what fills that space. Is that science? Making assumptions about what you don't know rather than finding out what you don't know? And what does any of this have to do with the creation of a map? What? Okay, all right.
And we're needing to find ways to kind of traverse the silences.
What?
And understanding the kind of fetishization of the digital data set is probably not going to serve us in these really specific sensitive situations.
The fetishization of the digital data set. Oh, what? So if I wrote it down in pencil, then if I make it analog, you ever get the feeling that, and I have not been innocent of this. I have been at times, at least, facetiously guilty of this. Someone just saying things to sound smart when there's nothing really there.
One, to give us also, because Lou specifically said, give us a tangible example.
Yes, give us okay, it only took 20 minutes of a 37-minute presentation. Yeah, please give us a tangible example.
So I thought I would show a tangible example.
All right. Well, is this going to be worth it?
Oh, you did it. Okay, great. That's cool. And I can.
What is it?
Okay,
can we see it? Can I see it?
Go move the mouse somewhere over. Yay. So this is LGBT map, and what I love about it and thinking about it is they go into relationship. These are breaking down all the laws and policies.
Okay, so it's Green Book. That's all I needed to hear. For crying out loud, why did this take this long? It's Green Book. Why did no one on this panel at least compare it to Green Book?
So it's not how many people are aware, right? So it's a really innovative way to think of what does count, what.
Okay, you've caught the like disease.
What affects your life? Here are state non-discrimination laws.
Okay.
And they're very policy-oriented, religious exemption laws. But you could think about how many white supremacist organizing events there were too.
What has that got to do with your? Okay, well, anyway. Thank you, Funtime Bats. Just in time, I see. Example time. Well, finally, yeah. And what is it? Exactly what I and several people in the chat, I assume, were saying long, long ago on this sucker. It's Green Book. It's Green Book for LGBTQ+. If you go to this state, be aware, here are the laws. If you're going here, if you're doing this in the nation in a particular geographic location, in a particular jurisdiction, this is what you should be aware of. For the purposes of your demographic, whatever it is. Right? I mean, it could just as well be, if you happen to be, here is a stamp collector's green book. This state or this city has a stamp collection museum. If you happen to be traveling through this place, or stamps cost a little bit more here. Yes, okay. It's a green book. If that's all it is, and I'm not dismissing its utility to those that need it, why are we going all over the map in terms and concepts and nonsense and word salad and debating who is a cartographer?
You can think about how many Christian nationalist preachers there are in the state, right? You can take things apart in different ways that we start thinking about mapping and categorizing in like the impact and the effect. And
also the inherent accusation of evil or something, I guess.
And the trauma that's affecting our life that isn't exactly written into something like policy, but it's there affecting us all the time and how that trauma works.
If you say so. So it's Green Book. I mean, however you want to interpret what's included in this Green Book, whatever. But it's just Green Book.
Maybe a little bit too.
Oh, now you don't have the mask on.
Lily and Jack.
You have a different mask on. You had a black mask on now, and they're taking off a white mask.
Presentation endpoints, like this sense of making maps for your own community and maybe not to the public, or also like breaking the mold, even in a more public way of like making a map that is in defiance of what we know as traditional cartography really makes me think about like punk art. And I'm a big fan of punk, like history, art, whatever. And it's like this idea of do it yourself and keeping it internally, but also making like this thing that is so just fucking ugly, but somehow like becomes really cool, and it's become really personal, and it's a deep, deep expression of who in your community is without like any maybe external judgment. And to me, like queering cartography can also be like just breaking the map for the sake of breaking the map. Maybe it doesn't even need a purpose.
And
I just wanted to say that little piece, like queering cartography is punk.
Because what was just put up on the screen, that very regimented, columned, sectioned display of information on different laws, policies, statutes, organizations in different jurisdictions. Yeah, I saw that, and the first thing I thought of was Johnny Rotten. Boy, oh boy. Johnny Rotten sure loves his spreadsheets.
But I think this is a good segue for any audience questions. So if you have any questions, the mic cord is short. You're going to have to like form a line and then ask your question.
Yeah, form an orderly.
Not shocking. I have a question. Hi, I'm Vanessa Knopka-Wetzel, she, her.
Jesus.
Let me.
Cliche. Just giant in neon lights. Cliche.
I kept re-asking the question in different ways in my head to try to find the best way, but I'll just vomit it out. I've been involved at NACIS and volunteer capacities for a while. I've gone for like 11 years. Folks who know me know me as a loud person who's done DI things. And recently at the business lunch, there was a survey results that showed that some folks said that they felt that NACIS was getting too political.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, this panel alone, and the fact that apparently it's the second diversity, equity, and inclusion panel for a cartographers association, golly gee whiz, do you think it's getting a little too political? I mean, admittedly, there are a certain level of unavoidable politics when it comes to map making, because eventually you're going to have to probably acknowledge political barriers or borderlines. You know, here's the line between this state and the next state, this country and the other country, jurisdiction, etc. So there's an unavoidable element of politics to map making, certainly. But let's say it for what is social politics. We're not talking about land separation and sovereignty politics. We're talking about social politics. So, has a cartographers association become too invested in social politics when it's having a series of panel discussions on DEI and queering? Yes. The answer is yes.
And that there was too much DEI stuff in cartography. And while I understand that sentiment because there is discomfort around a lot of change and things that didn't exist before.
No. There's lots of none of this has not existed before. Discrimination, categorization of people's value and worth on the basis of what they are or what they look like. That's not new. That's not new. The question is, what use is that to the creation of maps? But okay, yeah, you're such on the cutting. Yeah, DEI is on such the cutting edge of societal thinking. Oh man, you can't get much more future looking than DEI.
I was wondering if you feel comfortable to share what it's like to be on the opposite side where you don't see yourselves in the maps and what that means, as well as how others can help in participating in queer cartography, both in mapping as well as helping to build support in community.
Don't see yourselves in the... You know what? I have never seen myself in a map. Never. Not even on Google Street View. I have never been so blessed as to have myself immortalized in a passing photo on Google Street View connected to their maps. So I don't know. You should be asking me, how do I cope with not seeing myself in map? I don't know. I see somehow I get up every morning, I put my feet on the floor, and I take a moment and think to myself, I don't see myself on maps. And then I just have to, stand up and brush my teeth and go through my work. I mean, it is a constant struggle. It is a constant source of trauma every morning to realize that I will not see myself in a map.
I
don't know if I want to go first.
This reminds me of Nat Fox's work, who just got a job for the state of Oregon doing emergency preparedness for marginalized people.
Emergency preparedness for marginalized people. Oh, okay. Does a earthquake affect marginalized people more so than anybody else? Does a hurricane and preparedness for such affect marginalized people more than anybody else? I mean, socioeconomic circumstances, geographical circumstances, right? If I'm on the edge of the ocean for the oncoming hurricane versus being 3 miles inland, I suppose the circumstances might be, or the emergency planning might be different, but marginalized?
I did not know that the entire LGBTQ movement in Japan post-tsunami became absolutely fixated on climate change.
I could totally believe that.
Because once the tsunami hit,
because as we know, the tsunami was caused by climate change. As we know, that tsunami was caused by climate, because tsunamis never happened. Never happened prior to 2014. It was 2014, wasn't it? Yeah. But okay. Okay, the tsunami caused all people in a multitude of demographics that just happened to be all clustered together under one term of letters. All of them, all of the sudden, became climate change activists. What does that have to do with anything?
Queer people were separated in their families. Their families didn't count. Trans people were not allowed to get the access to resources, hormones, bathrooms, name.
Trans people had no access to bathrooms? Really? Hormones. Okay.
And it was so heart-wrenching and heartbreaking and violent that the entire movement in Japan, the LGBT movement, is about climate change. And
what does climate change have to do with access to bathrooms or hormones? Did I miss something here?
I think if we start from something that affects all of us, like authoritarianism, climate change.
Authoritarianism and climate change.
Artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Machine learning and how that.
Machine learning.
It's being used against us and saying, okay, well, this is how it affects me. How does it affect you? We're in this together. I think that's one way.
What?
And I think these things are coming for us. Like it's these kind of like, as my girlfriend always says, she got it from somewhere. The apocalypse starts with, oh, that's weird. And, like I walked by a tree and all the green leaves had fallen off and we just stood at it and we're like, she's like, that's weird. I was like, oh, you've been saying that quote? She's like, oh God. And so, and so I wonder, and I think that if we start in the hardest things that are hitting us, and talk openly about it, and like masculinity is changing.
No, well, it's being made to change. Men and boys are being shamed and thrust into self-hatred. So yeah, I suppose it is changing, but it's artificial. Totally and absolutely artificial. And you want to talk about data analytics and creating maps? How about you create a map of male suicide rates? Since you're talking about suicide prevention when it comes to querying the map. Talk about male suicide rates across this country, across the world even, over the last, say, 20, 25 years. How's that going? Is that because suddenly masculinity is toxic? Or because men are being told that they are broken more and more and more and more?
Like white masculinity has no freaking idea what to do with itself.
White masculinity. Uh-huh.
God. And because it wasn't working for them and they didn't know it, right? And
right. Yeah. My racialized masculinity is just totes not working for me. And I don't even know it. And our speaker is the prime example of where that should be headed, I guess.
And that needs to change a lot. And there needs to be support and collaborative rethinking. Asking people who, now that I've taken testosterone, I don't talk about my feelings all the time. I love to talk about my feelings. So,
what? It's just
like how that access to words and sensation and affect shifts hormonally needs to be brought up more and allowed different ways of thinking about that. That's not, this is natural, but, and given different tools too. Yeah, so some thoughts. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm inclined to stop here. I'm just, I had thought that everything I'd need to know about this would be in the first 5 minutes. They'd give an explanation. It would have been simple. Things that we've talked about, the Green Book aspect of it, the here's where all the gay bars kind of thing are. Even if you want to do like a tour guide of LGBTQ plus historical events in a particular area, like here's where this march took place, or here's where this riot happened, or the Stonewall, or whatever, things like that. Okay. That's not what we got. We got a bunch of self-important sounding nonsense from a group of people who have seemingly absolutely no idea what they're talking about, word to word, sentence to sentence. And the question of what is a cartographer might be more apt here than anything else. I'm going to stop there because I'm done. Nothing more constructive is to be had from this. And I'm not sorry I decided to listen to it, because I was honestly curious to know what the subject was, how it was defined, what the process is. And they gave it to us mostly. When they finally showed us a concrete example, it was, oh my gosh, here are the laws and or statutes that apply to our demographic, state to state, jurisdiction to jurisdiction. That's all you needed to say. That's it. But that's apparently not it. It's a bunch of other stuff that has nothing to do with anything, and all of it is being entertained on equal footing at a National Cartographers Association alongside people who actually do the work of making maps and surveying the land around us. Equal footing. I'll take a moment here for anything you guys have to say. Jeanette E. Hellis, just off of her recent birthday. Did anyone actually study cartography? I have absolutely no idea. The most that I could glean from this is that we have, at best, 4 people who do data aggregation. Maybe. And that's a big maybe. But I don't know. I don't know. If that website that was shown to us was the result of the work of our third speaker there from the left, okay. That shows a level of research and a collection of information that, sure, okay. Is that useful in the general sense of geography and creating a map of information based on a jurisdiction? Okay. But beyond that, I don't know. I have no idea. This is all self-involved nonsense, as far as I can tell. Let's see. Anything else? Man. You taking hormones, you're ridiculous, lunatic. You're taking hormones that your body does not produce is the furthest thing from natural. Yeah, I think the phrase male testosterone was used somewhere in there. Because there's all that female testosterone, or let's see, Spittlebuggies. I was wondering if they're talking about maps or the other kind of map, maybe combined. I pointedly avoided trying to confuse the actual, the object of a map, a piece of paper or a display that shows the geographical locations of things, with the slang given the circumstances and the content or the context of this presentation, because it might be good for a quick joke, but it doesn't have anything to do with anything, and I'm not going to spend any more time on that. But yeah, no, that was also kind of an unavoidable thing when I was making the thumbnail. It's like, slang is caught up with real things, and what are you going to do? Thank you so much, Faustonia. The question, what is a woman, is so last year. Now it seems, what is cartography, is the current day question. At least today, at least on this Sunday, this beautiful Sunday morning, wherein I attempted. It was a futile attempt. It was a Quixotian attempt to understand a phrase that I had not heard before. And I still don't understand it. Although I think I understand it on a utilitarian level, but it sure seems like a whole bunch of other nonsense has to be shoved into the same space to justify people's I don't know, presence at a Cartographers Association conference. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to call it there. Not only because I've got nothing left to say on the subject, but also because I really have to go use the little boy's room. So that also is a driving factor to my moving across the landscape, at least between here and my bathroom. But on that pleasant note, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Before I leave and before I wrap up completely, I have a Discord server. If you'd like to join the Discord server, I'm putting a link into the chat now. All you have to do is click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to give the secret word, or in this case, it'll be a passphrase to prove that you watched the show and have thus earned the right, the privilege of joining the Discord server. And today's secret passphrase is Green Book. Just say, hello, Green Book, on the Discord server, and my moderators will know you watched the show, and you will become a member of the Discord server. Beyond that, moderators, thank you so much for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here was so well behaved in all this madness that you had very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the fundraisers at the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Really, really do appreciate it. Programming note, I will next be found tonight on the Midnight's Edge After Dark channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for The Shit List, where host Tom Connors and a panel of goofballs like myself are going to discuss our individual top 5 Kurt Russell movies. Yes, if you are a Kurt Russell fan, oh my, the Russelldom. Rustle your feathers for Kurt Russell tonight on the Midnight's Edge After Dark channel, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the show as much as it was a show of something. I hope you all have a good rest of your Sunday. I hope you have a good week ahead of you. I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Also, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and comment. That's also helpful. Bye for now.